Hello everyone, how you guys all doing? Hopefully you guys are having a wonderful day, and today I am here with episode number 1 of Building Your Account, a series where I will take you through the process of building your account, or just some aspects of it. If you don't know already, I have a free-to-play domain series where I was a level 3 on this account, and I was a free-to-play player, and from there I made enough money in free-to-play to buy a bond to get membership, and at that point on, I've just been gaining stats, gaining money. I now have a pretty well-rounded account and gear worth 100 plus mil to kill bosses and have a good old time. So I've made a lot of progress in that series, and that shows most of the steps that I've taken to get here. But in that series, I don't have like a lot of time to really just go into certain aspects of building an account that I would like to talk about, because it's more of a progress series while also being a guide. So these videos are going to aim to help you in certain aspects. The one we're going to be discussing this video is money-making methods. Here I am at the cow pen. We are going to start with the free-to-play methods. Now, as far as starting an account, I really don't mind killing cows. I think it's decent XP. I think if you bank all of the cowhide you get, you'll be getting like 4K per inventory, maybe 5. It's not a ton, but I mean, at the same time, you got to get your levels up somehow, and if you can do it while also making money, that seems to make sense to me. It'll give you enough starter cash to be able to pick up the gear you need to upgrade and just a lot of miscellaneous stuff, so I really don't mind this. And some boosting starter GP also can be found west of Varrock, which is north of Lumbridge. If you go in the center of the barbarian village, there is a little hole that you can climb down. Go ahead and climb down in there. This will take you through just kind of a maze where you have to attempt to get to the center, where you get a coin reward if you make it. Going through all of these gates, you can spam click them, or you can actually read it. If you're new to the game, I'd recommend you read a lot of it, because it's going to give you tips and just things to think about when it comes to account security. You'd be surprised, but even if you may not think you have a lot, if the right information gets out there, it could be very susceptible to getting hacked. So upon making it to the middle of the first 3 floors, you get a coin reward, and then on the final one, you actually get a boot reward. And this is the second level. The first 2 levels, you don't need to have really anything on your account, I don't believe, to get the coin reward. However, judging by the wiki, it says on the 3rd level, you actually need to have Authenticator set up on your account, which is a way to secure your account. This is 5K, so that's half the reward. If you want to do that or not, that's up to you. It takes a little bit of time, but it does help. And those are the 2 ways I just get some starter GP on an account before really going into some of these other money-making methods. Alright, so all of these are going to be methods that I have done. Some of them are worse than they used to be, but I'll still show them in case they get better. And I'm just going to have to go through quick because I have a ton of methods here today. So the first one is going to be telegrabbing. To telekinetic grab, you're going to need 33 magic and a staff of air, along with some law runes to cast the spell. I'm going to bring some salmon to help me protect from PKers if need be, and we're going to be grabbing items that are located in unreachable locations in the wilderness. There are 2 spots. It's either north of Varrock and all the way up on this little isle, or north of Edgeville, a little bit west in this altar. The one in the altar is the one that I prefer, but if you want to go to the Isle, that is up to you. I typically run there. I will meet you there. So standing out here now, these things in my inventory I'm moving are just teleports that I use. You can't have them in free-to-play, but, you know, for the example of this, I don't need to be in free-to-play. The wine spawns right here, and you cannot grab it. As you see right there, you will get injured. That was a very good example. Basically, you just have to hop world to world, telegrabbing these wines of Zamorak. You only lose 1 law rune every time you use a telegrab. You also gain some magic XP, and you also get 1.8k per wine of Zamorak. However, unfortunately, like this, you can get PK'd out here sometimes. True example of what can happen out here. Don't bring any more than you are willing to lose in law runes. You should only bring enough to really last yourself the trip. At the end of the day, even if you die once, you know, you're definitely going to have way more trips that you end up banking than dying. And if you have the stats to PK there, you could maybe combine both going for the telegrams with actually PKing, so it's kind of up to you. And the second telegrab spot is over here on this little isle, as we were talking about earlier. Basically, there are just some nature runes out there, a stack of 3 and a stack of 4, and you just kind of have to get over on this side. The problem is with Members Worlds is Callisto's over here, which is a boss, and free-to-play, you won't have that, so it should be a little easier. And yeah, you just end up picking up 7 nature runes at the cost of 2 laws. Here, net every world you have to, you're making like 1.1k instead of like 1.6. So that's why I prefer the wines, but it's up to you. The next method that I had in free-to-play was buying arrows from the Varrock range shop. You could also buy them in Remington, which is where I found some success as well, as there wasn't as many people buying there. But the idea behind it was that iron arrows, steel arrows, and mithril arrows were all higher in price in the Grand Exchange than they were in the shop, so I could buy them here, sell them to the Grand Exchange, and make money. That is not the case anymore, at least not to the extent that it was before. As you can see here, mithril arrow profits 1 GP, and that's only for the first little bit because it does go up in price. Steel arrows actually do profit right now, so say I buy 50. We check again, it's 18, we buy more, 24, and we buy again. That's about as much as we can get. I probably spent about 20 GP per arrow, so in total 3k, and I got back 4.65. So as you can see, it does work, and it is working right now to a small extent. Iron arrows also 3 GP, actually 5 GP. You can make some money with it. It's definitely safe. It's definitely a safer way to make money than in the wilderness, but there's just no one here right now. If there are other people competing with you, then you make even less money. So that's the last free-to-play method because free-to-play just doesn't really have many good ones. For high-level free-to-play players, ogresses are really good, but I don't recommend staying in free-to-play long enough to gain your stats and really build your account because you should probably do that in members, which is where we're going to go now. So now we're going to pay more attention to the fancy graphics as they kind of mean more. The requirements for lava dragons, which is the next method, is 13 magic for Fire Strike is the spell that I personally recommend. You don't need it, but I'd recommend it. The cash required is about 10k. You just need some air runes and mind runes at a 2-to-1 ratio, along with a Staff of Fire. So yeah, it could bring a little more if you want, up to you really. 0 to 300k per hour. There are PKers, so you could just make nothing if you endlessly get PK'd. And, you know, on average, you're probably maxing out to like 300k. It's nice because you get some magic XP and you get some experience in the wildy. You also have that nice chance at a decent drop in Onyx Bolts or Vizzy, but at the same time, you can get PK'd. So if you remember, just teleport to the lava maze with a burning amulet, or if you don't know how to do that, then just run to level 42 Wilderness north of Varrock to this little gated area. So you can bring some gear out here. I didn't bring it, but I personally recommend an anti-dragon fire shield to deflect some of the dragon breath. I have enough HP to where it won't matter. Most of you won't. The magic armor is really not all that useful at a low level, so I don't even bother because you're just going to end up dying. Typically where I go is the southwestern corner down here behind some skeletons. Use the Staff of Fire, use the Fire Strike, and then just go to town on a lava dragon sitting right here. You won't hit as high as me, but every time, whether or not you hit, you will be getting 12 mage XP, so it's some decent passive XP, and whenever they die, you'll get some lava dragon bones, a lava shard, and maybe another random drop. So works out kind of well if you get a drop here that you like, maybe say a rune item, some onyx bolts, and you don't want to die with it. Just make sure to get out of here quick. Most of the time, if you end up dying, it's because you're not paying attention. Just pay attention to entryways, mainly that gate, and just all around you, really. You'll learn that about the wilderness. Just keep your head on a swivel, and if you really wanted to be safe, you could actually kill them from outside the maze until you grab their drops, but that's kind of a little try hard, so up to you. Out here in the wilderness with another method, you'll notice that a lot of these are in the wildy. That's because the wilderness is supposed to be high risk, high reward. And if you can minimize your risk, which you often can, then you got that high reward. So this is buying death runes from the Mage of Zamorak. This does actually have a requirement that I did not list there, but you do have to have completed the Mage of Zamorak mini quest, and upon completion, you can trade the Mage of Zamorak out here. Basically, the method used to be buying death runes from here and then selling them to the Grand Exchange, but right now there's only a 25 GP difference between the shop and the Grand Exchange, so it's not as good as it once was. It actually used to be about 130, 140 GP difference, and there was a lot more competition then. Now there isn't, but used to be able to make about 1 mil per hour. Nowadays, you're definitely going to make way less, but if death runes ever come back up, which I would imagine they do, this method's always here. So for the Ether Bracelet method, you're going to need 55 magic for the High Alch spell, and you're also going to probably want 300k plus. You only need like 50k, but it'd be kind of annoying to do that. The GP per hour ranges from 300 to 700k, depending on the prices of bracelets at the time. And the pros of this method is that you get mage XP, but the bad part is it's pretty click intensive, but you get money, you get GP, so if it's at the cost of clicking a little bit, it's not that big of a deal. Basically, the method involves buying a bracelet of Ethereum. I bought this for 44.1k. They go as low as 43k, so if you get into sense as to where they range. And then you're going to need to buy a piece of Revenant Ether that is 186 GP and a Nature Rune. Upon buying those three things, obviously you can have the Nature Runes in bulk. You don't need to buy them one by one at a time. But if you notice, the bracelet uncharged is worth a 43.2k alch value, so you can't alch it for profit. But if I charge it with one Revenant Ether, it's actually worth 45. So if I then high alch it, I'm going to make 512 GP in that one high alch. You can get about 600 to 700 in an hour. Now, obviously, that gets pretty click intensive, and the more money you have, the easier you can buy the bracelets in the GE and have them already in your bank. But that's definitely a method I use to get my magic up while also gaining money. The final low-level money-making method is tanning hides, which you can do in Alcarid. I'm currently south of the Dueling Ring Teleport, or east of Lumbridge, and we'll be running up to this little tannery up here. Basically, what you're going to need is a full inventory of Dragon Hide, whichever one you prefer. The requirements for this method is just cash. You need about 150k plus. The more money you have, the better, which is a con, obviously. But the positive about this is, again, there are no stat requirements, and you can make close to 500k an hour. So just heading on over there, basically, you're going to want to rebank here every time you get done doing one of these laps, but just run north up to this most northern house, go inside, and pay 20 GP per hide to Ellis to tan your hides. Now, price checking this beforehand, it is in total worth 150.4k, and doing that afterwards, it is now worth 153.8. So you just make that every single inventory. You run back to the bank, you come back. If you have to sell these off after so long, obviously that's a lot of trips to the Grand Exchange. You cut into your profits a little bit. I'd say just use a Dueling Ring and Varrock teleports, and you should be good to go. Now that I'm getting into the med and high level stuff, this is going to be just more than I can do a guide on in this video for the most part. A lot of these are just going to be something you'll have to search up outside, but I'll give you a good idea as far as what I did and why. So the first med level moneymaker that I employed a lot of in my series was Wildy Slayer. I think Wildy Slayer is really nice because as far as requirements, you can almost do it at any level. There's a lot of low level tasks, a lot of high level tasks. There's just a wide variety of everything, and I really think that everyone can get something out of it. The cash required to really get going is probably like a Dragon Scimitar, so I guess I'd recommend 60 attack, 60 strength maybe before you get out there, but that's up to you. Just some decent gear. You don't want to bring anything into the Wildy you're not willing to lose, so keep that in mind. And I mean, at the end of the day, you're probably making about 300k GP plus per hour just on the emblems you're getting from task to task. So I really enjoyed that, did a lot of that. Also, urgent news, since making this recording, Wilderness Slayer actually got some key drops added to the table, a lot like Konar keys. So that probably boosts the GP per hour like to 400, 450k for the most part. Just a little added info. I enjoyed the overall XP that I was able to get, along with the experience of being in the Wildy. I think if you're a med-level player, you just got to get out there, you know, kind of dip your toe, understand what it's all about. And some cons, I guess, I mean, with more money, you make more money. That's just really how it is, but even more so with Wildy Slayer. And you also do get PK'd a lot. That comes with the experience, but by getting PK'd, you'll be better eventually. Charging glories or other Dragonstone jewelry is another money-making method that you can try out. Depends on the margin. You really just got to check the difference between the uncharged version and the charged version of the Dragonstone jewelry and just see what works best for you. Most of the time it is glories though, because glories are the only Dragonstone jewelry to have a rare drop of an eternal glory, which is worth 26 mil. It's a 1 in 25k drop, so it's rare, but it's also worth a ton. So as far as the requirements, you really only need to have a house, because if you teleport to your own house in Remington, leave that house and then go to World 330 and enter someone else's house, you can teleport to Anakarl, which is really far out in the Wildy and really close to the Fountain of Rune that you will be going to charge. And that's kind of the way that I did it. You can also run from different areas by maybe using a games necklace and going to the corp layer. Really is just how you want to get there, what you feel like is the most safe for you, because obviously there is some risk with just running naked through the wildy with an inventory full of glories. It's like 350k in your inventory, so it's a fair risk. The cash required is 500k plus, and that's just going to be to cover, an inventory or two. The more cash, the better, but it's pretty easy to go back to the Grand Exchange and sell, so up to you, really. At the end of the day, you're making 900k to 2.5 mil an hour doing this if you're doing it consistently, and the 900k is assuming you die once an hour, which, honestly, I don't even die that much. You'll be pretty wired out here and just focus, so just make sure to log out whenever you see a white dot. It's not too hard, but the 2.5 mil an hour is accounting for the expected value of the Eternal Glory. If you don't get the Eternal Glory at all, ever, you assume that never happens. It's closer to like 1.2 mil, 1.3 mil an hour. So, and then the final med level one is Green Dragons. Honestly, Green Dragons is a throwback moneymaker that I've always enjoyed. There are various places to kill them at. There's really 3 different places to kill them upon the surface of the wildy, but I like to kill them in the Revenant Cave, where if you wear an Amulet of Avarice, which makes you Scald, it does note everything for you, so if you're quick with the teleports and only bring one item that you want to keep and you use the +1 prayer, you're actually pretty safe. So for me personally, I'd recommend like 60 of whatever combat stats you're going there with. So if you're using range, a 60 range, or if you're using melee, 60 of attack and strength. Cash required is 50k plus. You can get a pretty cheap range setup here if you want to go with that. And the GP per hour ranges anywhere from 300 to 900k depending on where you're killing them and how efficiently you're killing them, like with what items, with a cannon, without a cannon. Just a lot of factors, but at the end of the day, they're real consistent, which is a good thing, but also you never really get anything else from them, so it's also nothing crazy really going on, but there's also a lot more PKers here than most places in the wilderness, at least at a low level, so also kind of something to consider. So on to high-level moneymakers. The first money-making method is Revenants. Revenants are in the Revenant Cave. That is just absolutely a PKing fest, but if you can manage, you can make some money out there. The revs drop a lot of good drops, but the requirements are pretty high. You can kill them really at almost any level, but you don't really make money unless you probably have 80 plus in the combat stat that you're choosing to go there with. So me personally, I like to go there with a blowpipe and 80 plus range. The cast required is 200k plus if you're coming with melee, or you could even use a range setup with a rune crossbow and some Dragon Bolts E. You can get out here pretty cheap, but I'd recommend a blowpipe. The GP per hour, 500k to 3 mil. Again, if you're coming out here with a scrub setup, you're not going to make much money because there's a lot of competition, and whoever does the most damage gets the drop, so the better gear typically wins out. As far as why I like this method, insanely good cash, that is it. It is just really good money. I hate everything else about it for the most part. You do get some PK experience, so you'll learn, or either you won't and you will die a lot. And also, the money-making method as a whole can be inconsistent if you end up dying too much. Next up is killing Venenatus. Venenatus is a spider wilderness boss that can be found at about level 22 near the eastern Green Dragons, but more north of them. As far as the requirements, 80 plus in your combat stat that you're coming here with. Again, I recommend range here with a crossbow if you can. If not, maybe a rune crossbow or a magic short bow. Cash required, 200k plus again for like a kind of cheap range setup. You can bring less if you want, but about 200k. The GP per hour here can range as low as 500k to 2 mil. There's some variance to that. Some hours you'll be lower than that, but on average you'll be between there depending on what gear you have and what kind of stats. I love Venenatus because it's just insanely good money, especially if you kill a lot of it, you'll really get to start to average out the dragon pickaxes, and if you start getting those, it just makes it that much better. It's also pretty chill for like wilderness content. It's obviously not AFK. I get roasted if I said that. You do have to pay attention to if people are around you, but if you know the solo lure, which is kind of a safe spot, it's really, really easy. That is one thing with this boss as far as the cons. It's almost a necessity to learn the lure, and I'd recommend you guys check that out if you want to come here for an extended amount of time. And then General Slayer. I mean, honestly, as a high and mid-level player, I think Slayer is just almost a necessity in any form. I kind of get away from Wilderness Slayer because I'm not looking for as much cash as I am just kind of general XP. So the requirements, you can start Slayer really with anything. High-level Slayer is just kind of relative to the person. You know, when you start making money for yourself, it seems high, but at the end of the day, Slayer as a whole is just really great. The cash required is pretty minimal. You just need a D-Sim, maybe a rune sim, and just kind of get out there. The GP per hour ranges anywhere from 0 if you're on a bad task to 3 mil an hour if you're on some of the higher level boss tasks. And as far as the pros, you get a lot of combat XP, you get to start getting up your stats, and you get to try a lot of new monsters, a lot of new stuff, see what you like in the game. As far as the cons go, if you're against PVMing, if you don't like the death of monsters, then this just isn't for you. I mean, at the end of the day, you're not going to like killing a bunch of different random stuff if you don't like killing stuff. And then finally, Zulrah/Vorkath. The reason I put these in the same grouping is because I'm not making a guide on this. Like, they're basically the same boss to me. I think whichever one you would like to kill more, you go ahead and kill. If you're wondering which one's easier, personally, I think to learn and get kills consistently, Vorkath is easier. Zulrah is harder because you have to learn switches and rotations. But at the end of the day, Vorkath's kind of a little bit repetitive, while Zulrah is more of a little bit fresh, I guess, on every kill. So really up to you. I think they're pretty comparable. The requirements for Zulrah are 80 range and 80 mage, but the parentheses is for Vorkath, where I'd say 85 plus range is needed, along with Dragon Slayer 2 for Vorkath. You're also going to need to have access to the western provinces for Zulrah, but if you have those stats, you probably should have quested that much, I'd imagine. The cash required, probably about 1 mil plus in gear. You can do it with less, but wouldn't really recommend it. And the GP per hour ranges anywhere from 1 mil to 3 mil. You know, if you're coming here with minimal stats to Zulrah or Vorkath, you're not going to make a ton because the kills will be slow. But the higher you get those levels, the faster those kills come and the faster the GP does as well. So these are bosses that are just like good high-level bosses. They're not endgame, but they're something that can get you to endgame, which is more along the lines of like Raids 1, Raids 2. But that is outside of my reach currently. So as far as the pros, obviously you get some bossing experience, and also you have a chance at a pet, which you didn't have a lot of in this video. The bad side, you gotta grind a decent bit, you gotta learn how to do these bosses, but once you get them down, they're easy as can be, and you keep making money. Alright, so that is going to be it for me this episode. Hopefully you guys did enjoy the first installment of building your account. If there's anything you'd like to see me do a video on, make sure to let me know down below. And if you don't have an idea, you could always go down the comments, see which ideas you like, and make sure to thumbs those up so then I know which ones you like, even without you knowing what you like. It's a great thing. If you guys enjoyed, obviously, make sure to leave a like. Anything you want to tell me, as I said below, you know where to do that. And if you want to see more as soon as it goes live, make sure to subscribe. But with that said, hopefully you guys have a wonderful day, and